It was 2 a.m. when the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Blake Turner, a single dad living in a small, worn-down apartment on the east side of town, jolted awake. He grabbed the phone, half-conscious, thinking it was his boss calling him for an emergency shift at the warehouse. But the voice on the other end wasn't his boss. It was a young woman crying so hard she could barely breathe. She kept repeating one name. "Dad, Dad, please, I need you." Blake didn't know this girl. He didn't know why she called his number by mistake. But something in her voice, a kind of fear he recognized from his own daughter. His worst nights made him sit up, slip on his boots, and grab his coat. He didn't know where he was going or who he was about to meet. He just knew someone out there needed kindness, and Blake, despite having so little to give, couldn't ignore that. Before we begin the full story, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment to support our channel, Echoes of Dad. Your engagement helps us bring more heartfelt stories just like this one to your screen. Blake didn't have a car. His old truck had died years earlier, so he relied on buses and walking. But at 2 a.m., there were no buses, no taxis in sight, just cold air and miles of empty road. Still, he started walking because something told him this moment mattered more than sleep or comfort. The girl on the phone had given him an address between sobs. She thought she was calling her father, someone she desperately needed. Blake tried telling her she had the wrong number, but she didn't hear. Or maybe she didn't want to. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Please hurry, I don't feel safe." After that, the lion went silent. He remembered his own daughter, Emily, who was sleeping peacefully in the small bedroom they shared. She was 9 years old, bright-eyed, and tougher than most adults he knew. Ever since her mother passed away, Blake had done everything he could to keep her world gentle and safe. Maybe that's why he couldn't ignore the stranger's call. He knew what it felt like to wish anyone would show up for you. The address led him to a wealthy neighborhood he had only ever seen during deliveries. Massive iron gates, long driveways lined with trees. Houses that looked more like miniature palaces. Blake felt out of place in his old jacket, with paint stains on his pants from the odd jobs he did on weekends. But he walked forward anyway. The house at the end of the street was lit up, but not in a warm, welcoming way. One window glowed an eerie blue, flickering like the light of an old television. The front door stood slightly open. Blake hesitated. He wondered if he was walking straight into trouble. But then he heard a faint sound, someone crying. He stepped inside and found a girl sitting on the marble floor of the foyer. She couldn't have been older than 22. Her phone lay shattered next to her. Her hair was messy, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, and she hugged her knees tightly as if holding herself together. When she looked up and saw Blake, she flinched. "You're not my dad," she whispered. "No," Blake said softly. "I'm not. But you called me, so I came." Something in that simple sentence broke her. She covered her face with her hands and cried even harder, not the panicked sobbing from before, but the kind that comes when you realize you're not alone after all. Blake sat on the floor beside her. He didn't touch her. He just stayed there, breathing slowly, giving her space. After a long while, she finally spoke between shaky breaths. Her name was Lily Harrington, daughter of Charles Harrington, the man who owned half the real estate developments in the state. Lily explained she had a panic attack after a fight with her father. She wanted to call him to come home, but in her frantic state, she misstyled by one digit. "One digit," Blake murmured. "That's all it took for me to end up here." Lily managed a weak laugh. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag a stranger into all this." "Don't apologize," Blake said. "Everyone needs someone sometimes, doesn't matter who." They talked quietly for a while, and Blake realized Lily wasn't just upset about the fight. She felt trapped in a world where everything was polished and perfect on the outside, but lonely and hollow inside. Her father was hardly ever home. Her mother lived across the country. Her friends were, well, not really friends. They loved her parties, not her. "I just wanted someone to show up for me," she whispered. Blake nodded. "I get that more than you know." Eventually Lily calmed down. Blake helped her get a glass of water, and they sat at the kitchen table, an enormous island made of imported stone. Everything in the house looked expensive, but nothing felt lived in. It reminded Blake of those fancy furniture showrooms where nobody sits on anything. When she finally looked like she was okay, Blake stood to leave. "You're safe now," he told her. "You're gonna be alright." But Lily stood too, blocking his path. "You walked miles at night to help someone you don't even know," she said in disbelief. "Why?" Blake shrugged. "It was the right thing to do. People don't do that anymore," she said. "Not for strangers." "Maybe they should," Blake replied gently. Before he could reach the door, headlights swept across the windows. A sleek black car pulled up, and a tall, sharply dressed man stepped out. Charles Harrington. Lily stiffened. Her father hurried inside. Lily! I came as soon as I saw your missed calls. He stopped when he noticed Blake. His expression hardened instantly. Who are you? Lily stepped in front of Blake. Dad, stop. This man helped me. I called him by accident, and he showed up. He stayed with me until you got here. Charles eyed Blake suspiciously, as if trying to figure out what he wanted. Well, thank you, he said stiffly. I can take it from here. Blake expected that reaction. He grabbed his coat and nodded politely. Take care of her, he said then. Started for the door, but Lily grabbed his arm. Wait, don't leave yet. Charles frowned. Lily, no, she said firmly. Dad, listen to me for once. She turned to Blake. Do you have kids? One daughter, Blake answered. Emily. Does she know how lucky she is? Lily asked softly. Blake smiled. I hope so. As he stepped outside into the cold early morning air, Lily suddenly appeared. Beside him with her father trailing behind, looking confused. She held out a small card with her phone number written on it. If you or your daughter ever need anything at all, please call me, she said. I want to return the kindness you gave me tonight. Blake hesitated. He didn't want charity, and he definitely didn't want to get tangled up with wealthy strangers. But the sincerity in Lily's eyes wasn't about money. It was about connection, a real one. All right, Blake said finally, taking the card. Thank you. Lily smiled, the first genuine smile of the night. And, Blake, I won't forget this, I promise. When Blake finally walked home, the sky was turning pink. He opened the door to find his daughter awake, rubbing her eyes sleepily. Dad? Where'd you go, she asked. Blake lifted her into his arms. I went to help someone, he whispered, and I think it mattered. A few days later, Blake got a call. It was Charles Harrington. His voice was calmer, warmer this time. He explained that Lily had told him everything about the panic attack, the fight, and Blake showing up like a guardian angel in work boots. Charles said he wanted to thank Blake in a real way. He offered him a steady job in one of his company's full benefits, good pay, flexible hours, so he could spend more time with Emily. Blake tried to refuse, but Charles insisted. This isn't charity, Charles said. This is gratitude. Blake accepted, not for himself, but for his daughter. Weeks passed. Lily visited their small apartment often, usually with art supplies or books for Emily. Blake noticed how the lonely Heiress seemed happier when she sat on their old thrift store couch than in her own mansion. Emily adored her, and Lily seemed to adore being part of their little world. Kindness had brought them together. A wrong number had changed all their lives. And as time went on, the Harrington mansion didn't feel as cold anymore. Lily started repairing her relationship with her father. Charles made real efforts to be present, to listen, to soften. Little by little, that giant empty house began to feel like a home again. All because one man, one tired single dad, with nothing but a good heart, decided to show up for a stranger at 2 a.m. In the end, kindness is a choice. A simple one. Sometimes it's walking miles in the dark. Sometimes it's picking up the phone. Sometimes it's just showing up without being asked. You never know whose life you might change, and you never know how your kindness might come back to you in ways you could never imagine. So be the reason someone feels seen today. Be the reason someone believes the world still has good in it. Because kindness always echoes back.